Welcome back to 64-Bit Meta, the sister channel where I post ARPG related content. Now, it has been a while. I intended to post a Blood Mage Ascendancy guide for PoE 2 when 0.4 came around, but yeah, life and holidays got in the way. Luckily, that guide will still be relevant for 0.5. So by the time that particular update hits, I will be posting that particular guide. For now, we can focus on 3.28 and the Soulwrest Phantasm League Starter. Specifically, this is a build update for that League Starter that will go over the buffs, the nerfs, and the changes that we get in the new Mirage League. Speaking of Mirage, it's going to be an interesting one because this particular league is a mapping focused one. Specifically, the Mirage League mechanic copies a portion of your map and makes it so that you can rerun it. That's pretty cool because the occultist variant that I love of this build blows up packs, blows up screens with enough density, so anything that's mapping focused is welcome in my book. There is one important caveat though, and that is how the league mechanic works. The copy is its own instance. That means that you lose buffs, minions lose buffs. In fact, minions have to be resummoned. For the more involved minion builds out there, that's a problem. For something like Soulwrest Phantasm, that is no problem at all. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But while we're on the subject of leagues, yeah, the Keepers of the Flame League. It is not staying. In fact, the Grafts that were introduced in Keepers of the Flame are not here to stay. I predicted that in my 3.27 build update, but that does mean we lose out on Blessed Ground, which gave our minions extra damage, and we lose out on Shocked Ground, which of course increases damage taken on targets that stand on it. To be fair, those were never the most reliable buff and debuff respectively to begin with, so whatever. But the two Grafts combined did provide up to 100% increased minion damage. That is a bit of a loss, but again, to be fair, that was never part of the baseline build, baseline guide, or damage. What was part of the original build and baseline is Awakened support gems, and that's something we need to talk about, because if we go into Path of Building real quick, we need to see what happens when Awakened support gems are gone. Because yes, they're gone in 3.28. Now, if we look at our original 3.27 DPS, this is a peak DPS of 16.8 million with Val Haste enabled. So we're going to disable that. And then we're dealing with 13.7 sustained in an ideal circumstance. If we then disable Awakened support gems and enable normal ones instead, we drop down to 12.3 million. That's a bit of a loss, but not the end of the world. But there's one more thing. We lose Unnerved. You can't see it because I'm sitting in front of it, but yeah, we have to untick the Unnerved buff, or debuff I should say, because that was part of Awakened Controlled Destruction, which, again, is no longer a thing. So that means we drop down from 13.7 mil to 11.5. Yikes. Now, the good news is that we're getting exceptional support gems in return. What does that look like? Well, one of them was shown in the latest teaser, which is Congregation support, which makes it so that most likely at level 4, we gain at least 50% more maximum number of minions from supported skills. If the gem supports the Soulwrest staff and therefore the phantasms that are summoned through it, we are jumping from our current minion limit of 22 to 33. That's interesting on paper. That is effectively 50% more damage. So in order to see what that looks like, we can disable our lowest damage support, which is Elemental Focus, and we can up the count from 22 to 33. Which brings us back up to 12.7 mil. That's not bad, but there is an important caveat. If we go in-game and look at the time needed to summon and maintain 33 Phantasms? Yeah. Let's first look at 22. That's not too bad, and importantly, it is less than 4 seconds. That is relevant for Blessed Rebirth. Minions created recently cannot be damaged. If we then look at the time needed to summon 33 minions effectively, which takes 7 triggers of the cast while channeling Cyclone Desecrate Flesh Offering setup, it looks a little something like this. Boom. That's how long it would take, roughly speaking, to summon 33 Phantasms. Now, once they're up, they're going to stay for a while, but because this takes like 5 seconds instead of less than 4, the oldest minions become vulnerable. And on certain maps and against certain high damage bosses, that is a problem because Phantasms are not the most tanky, even with the fact that we're running a purity of elements on ourselves, which, you know, the minions also benefit from. So while on paper it looks pretty good, in practice it might be a different story. And to be clear, that is also the reason why I, for example, never went with the Dark Monarch in the build. Yeah, it doubles the number of Phantasms if I select that variant, which would have brought us from 22 to 44, but upkeeping 44 is even worse of a nightmare. On top of the fact that you can no longer use your Animate Guardian, you give up Devouring Diadem. I think you understand what I'm getting at. So, we'll have to wait and see what exceptional support gems we can use to replace minion damage, control destruction, and elemental focus, potentially. For now, in any case, the build is still incredibly budget-friendly. It is still an easy-to-get going build. I was able to purchase a staff in 3.27 when I League started with it for less than 10 chaos, and I could roll from there. It's that simple. Speaking of, let's get into the nitty-gritty regarding the build itself. Again, if you're interested, I have both the original guide and the build update for keepers linked in the description below. The build update also encompasses the triple curse setup that I talked about. It is another way to get more damage into the build, but it's only for those who are extremely dedicated. Regardless, the original guide and that update will provide all the information you need about important mechanics, with the exception of the grafts, because those are gone. If you have any questions, though, about the build, you can always leave a comment here, obviously. Or if you wish, you can follow me along on my main channel, Up to 64-bit, where I will be streaming the game this weekend. I will be streaming as soon as I reach maps, which will be on Saturday then. On Friday, I will be launching with probably a cold one in hand, some nice music, and blasting through maps. Well, campaign, I mean. We're going toward maps, of course. So, I hope this build update was useful. If you have any questions right away, again, feel free to leave a comment. And otherwise, you can catch me live later this week. After the launch, we will obviously dive into the exceptional support gems and what we can potentially do. So, until then, have an amazing league start, take good care, and see you next time.